Hey guys, I wanted to share a couple thoughts from the last chapter of the Gospel of John, John chapter 21. We just finished, this, last 8 or 9 weeks talking about the 7 I am statements that Jesus made in the Gospel of John. And it's been amazing to look and see at the statements that Jesus made about who he was. And it just really it's eye-opening and very revealing into who God is and with this proper path to salvation, which is directly through Jesus. And Jesus was an amazing person. I mean, he's still alive, obviously, today. We believe that. We believe that he's at the right hand of the Father. And I think as Christians, Jesus, the word Jesus, the name Jesus, it holds reverence in our hearts, but it can easily, I think, sometimes become just a word we say, and we don't necessarily perceive the person that name represents. And that person is the Son of God, Jesus, a member of the Godhead 3 in 1, and that is a powerful thing. John chapter 21 tells us a couple things about things that Jesus did and said before he left his disciples on their mission to go out and to start planting churches and creating disciples. And before we read any of John chapter 21, I wanted to read this last little statement of John 20. I think it is one of those phrases we kind of read through and then kind of move on. But let's just read it. It's really interesting. In verse 30 of chapter 20, John says, "Many other signs, therefore, Jesus also performed in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. But these have been written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name." John's making this statement and saying, listen, I've told you these specific miracles that you might believe that Jesus is the Son of God, and that by believing in his name you would be saved. But he makes the statement saying that he did many more things. Sometimes when we look at the Gospels, sometimes we look at this book and that book and we see what almost seem like discrepancies, right? Jesus did this here, but he didn't do this there, or whatever. The point is that these are perspectives from different people who wrote these books. But Jesus did many things. And that's actually even more of an encouragement to see that, there's what John has disclosed to us in the Gospel of John about what Jesus did. But Jesus did even many more things than that. That Jesus was amazing. He was doing miracles all throughout his ministry, teaching people, talking to people, and it's super cool that he makes this point. Like, we look at what he said already, it's like beyond belief. He fed thousands of people. He walked on water. He rose again. And John's saying he actually did more than that. These are just the ones that I included in the book. In chapter 21, we see Jesus kind of this last little moment spending time with his disciples. And there's this moment in verse 15, which I think is so important. Remember Peter, he denied the Lord 3 times. Denied him 3 times. And Peter, just full of shame, obviously, from this great failure of his. And I think we can understand that because we fail all of the time too. We would have denied him too. And Jesus presents an opportunity to Peter to be reconciled. And this is really cool. He asks Peter, he says, listen, Jesus says, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" And he said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." He said to him again, "Tend my lambs." Verse 16, he said to him again a second time, "Son of John," or Simon, son of John, "do you love me?" And he said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." And Jesus said, "Shepherd my sheep." Verse 17, he said to him a third time, he said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter was grieved because he had said to the Lord the third time, do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. And Jesus said to him, tend my sheep. Peter had denied Jesus 3 times, and Jesus had given him this opportunity to declare that he loved him an equal amount 3 times, telling him to go and tend his sheep. And Peter recognizing rightly that Jesus is God, he does see all things. It's all open to him. And it doesn't do us any good, to try to hide who we are from God. God sees directly into our hearts, and that's why it's good for us to be perfectly honest before God, because we can't hide things. But Jesus wanted to see Peter restored, and so he gave him this opportunity to declare his love for him 3 times. He denied him 3 times. He declared his love for him 3 times. And then it says, as it goes further into this chapter, Jesus kind of reveals to Peter by what death he would go to die someday. And there's this moment where Jesus is talking to Peter about this, and then Peter turns around and he looks at John. They call him the disciple whom Jesus loved. Often is what they say refers to John. Obviously, Jesus loved all of his disciples. But they refer to John as the disciple whom Jesus loved. And Peter's like, well, what about him? I'm going to die this way. What about him? And Jesus says to him, he says, if I want him to remain until I come, what is that to you? You follow me. Jesus making this point to Peter, it's a pretty kind of powerful statement to say, listen, you don't need to worry about what I have in store for that one person. You just need to follow me and let that be the most important thing in your life. And I think as people, sometimes we do get kind of caught up wanting to know about what everybody else is doing, what everybody else is, and we're constantly comparing ourselves, and we can kind of miss the point that God has given us a specific purpose, even personalized to each individual. Where we share this great commission together, but we have a mandate given to us by God, that God has prepared this plan for us, and then we look in the Gospels and we see Jesus always preparing his disciples for what's coming up, and that's what he's doing for Peter here. And again, even Jesus, what he says to Peter in response to John, if I want him to remain until I come, that's not for you to worry about. We see that John lived a long life in the Bible, and we actually see John writing this book of Revelation and having this crazy. He's in basically exile, imprisonment, living on this island by himself, and God opens up the heavens and just gives him this crazy revelation, which is the book of Revelation. And again, Jesus, hinting at what is going to come. And then in the end of chapter 21, it says in verse 25, it says, and there are also many other things which Jesus did, which if they were written in detail, I suppose that even the world itself would not contain the books which were written. Again, just pointing out how magnificent God is, that if it was even all recorded, how could the world contain the things that he had done? We look in the beginning with the first chapter of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Jesus being in the creation moment, doing what he was doing. How could we contain the miracle of his hand in creation? How can we contain all of the future works that are to come that his hands are in? That our God is infinite and incredible and beyond containment, even into a book. And that is the God we serve. That is the Jesus of the Bible. And that powerful, magnificent, uncontainable God wants to have a personal relationship with you and me and every single person who would call on his name. And then we look back at verse 31. of chapter 20 when John says, I've written down these things so that you may believe that Jesus is the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. In his name. That's why the miracles were recorded. That's why the 7 I am statements are recorded. That's why all of the work of what Jesus did was recorded, that we could know that he is God and that we could be saved by his name. And God could have kept it a secret, but he didn't, because he wants us to live with him forever. And that is an encouraging thing. God loves you. All right, guys, a couple things from my office that are laying around that I wanted to show you guys. This is pretty cool. This is a Funko Pop. This is a thing that people collect. They're like these little kind of dorky little dolls. And this one is Groot from Guardians of the Galaxy. Pretty cool, little cute mini Groot. He's got like a glowing hand. I haven't taken him out, but yeah, pretty cool. I'm not like super into Groot. I just got this through like a loot crate or something. I think it's kind of cool. A little bobblehead. This is cool. This is a knife, and I got it in Tanzania. The Maasai warrior guys use these. It's wrapped in kind of like this like dyed red leather, and it's made out of obviously metal, but I think it's like, I don't know if they take sheet metal or what they take to kind of beat it into the shape and sharpen it. Not super sharp. I haven't went through and sharpened it. I don't know if I really will. Why have like a ridiculously sharp knife in my office? But it's pretty cool. It's got weight on the end, as far as how the blade's constructed. So good for chopping. It's pretty cool. I'm not sure what this hair is. Hopefully animal hair, but pretty neat. Got a lot of cool things in Tanzania, but definitely had to bring home some blades. You know what I mean? Hashtag bring home some blades. So that's pretty cool. Hey guys, I'm looking forward to meeting with you guys again on the live stream tonight on Zoom. I will get a hold of you then, and I will talk to you guys next week as well. So love you guys.